In the bleak winter of 1942, Poland lay under the iron grip of Nazi occupation, a nation fractured by fear and despair. The once bustling railway stations, which had symbolized progress and connectivity, now served as grim gateways to death. Trains, laden with human cargo, Jews, Romani people, and political dissidents trundled along the tracks, their destinations often shrouded in secrecy and horror. The railway workers, including dispatchers, conductors, and engineers, were thrust into a moral quagmire as they witnessed the unfolding tragedy. The Polish railway system, an intricate web of tracks and stations stretching from the bustling cities of Warsaw and Kraków to the rural expanses of the countryside, became a crucial component of the Nazi deportation machinery. Each day, trains departed from platforms, their destinations marked by the ominous names of concentration camps like Auschwitz and Treblinka. For the railway workers, the sight of these trains became a haunting routine, a stark reminder of their complicity in a genocidal operation that was both distant and intimately close. Initially, many railway workers viewed the deportations as an external tragedy, a grim reality that unfolded beyond their control. The enormity of the Nazi regime's operations seemed insurmountable, and the idea that they could alter its course felt ludicrous. Yet, as the months dragged on, the whispers of atrocities began to penetrate the walls of their indifference. Stories of unimaginable horrors reached them through clandestine channels, carried by the few who managed to escape the clutches of the camps. The seeds of doubt and disbelief were sown, challenging the initial skepticism that had pervaded their ranks. When the winter frost melted into the spring of 1942, the railway workers found themselves at a moral crossroads. The trains they operated were not mere vehicles. They were instruments of death, carrying men, women, and children to their fates. The growing horror of the situation began to weigh heavily on their consciences. Could they, in good faith, continue to facilitate such a monstrous enterprise? The question lingered, unanswered, as the trains continued their relentless journeys. In the shadowy corners of railway depots and stations, a sense of unease began to permeate the atmosphere. Workers, bound by a shared sense of duty and camaraderie, engaged in hushed conversations about the deportations. These discussions, often held in secluded areas away from prying eyes, marked the first tentative steps toward a collective awakening. The realization that they were not powerless, that they could indeed make a difference, began to take hold. As 1942 drew to a close, the Polish railway workers found themselves at a pivotal moment in their history. The initial skepticism that had clouded their judgment was replaced by a resolute determination to act. The time for derision had passed, the time for resistance had arrived. The railway workers, once passive observers of a tragic unfolding, began to envision themselves as agents of change, ready to confront the machinery of deportation head-on. The Polish railway system, a vital artery of the nation, was established in the 19th century and had undergone significant expansion and modernization by the time World War II erupted. Spanning over 20,000 kilometers, the network connected major cities and remote villages alike, facilitating commerce and travel. However, with the onset of Nazi occupation in 1939, this once proud symbol of national identity became a tool of oppression. By 1942, the Nazi regime had implemented a systematic plan for the deportation of Jews and other targeted groups, utilizing the railways to transport victims to extermination camps. The scale of these operations was staggering. Trains often carried hundreds of individuals, crammed into cattle cars under inhumane conditions. The journey was fraught with peril, as many passengers succumbed to starvation, disease, or despair before reaching their final destination. Daily life for railway workers during this period was marked by an oppressive atmosphere. The presence of Nazi officials and the Gestapo loomed large, creating an environment of fear and suspicion. Workers were acutely aware that any deviation from orders could lead to severe repercussions, including arrest or execution. Yet, amidst this climate of terror, a flicker of resistance began to emerge. The Polish underground state, a clandestine organization formed in response to the occupation, played a crucial role in fostering resistance among railway workers. This network, which included the Home Army, Armia Krajowa, provided support, resources, and intelligence to those willing to act against the Nazi regime. The underground movement was characterized by a decentralized structure, allowing for flexibility and adaptability in the face of constant danger. As whispers of atrocities spread, railway workers began to engage in clandestine discussions, contemplating their role in the deportation process. The moral dilemma they faced was profound: to continue facilitating the Nazi regime's operations or to take a stand against the horrors unfolding before them. This internal struggle was compounded by the knowledge that their actions could have dire consequences not only for themselves but also for their families and communities. The logistics of resistance were complex. Communication was fraught with danger, as the ever-present threat of Nazi surveillance loomed large. Railway workers had to navigate a treacherous landscape of suspicion, often relying on coded messages and clandestine meetings to share information and coordinate efforts. The stakes were high, and the consequences of discovery were dire. Yet, the urgency of the situation compelled them to act. By the time the year progressed, the railway workers began to form a clandestine network dedicated to disrupting the machinery of deportation. This network was composed of ordinary men and women dispatchers, conductors, engineers united by a common cause. Their mission was clear: to save as many lives as possible by altering deportation routes and rerouting trains bound for death camps to safer locations. The formation of this resistance network marked a significant turning point in the struggle against the Nazi regime. The railway workers, once passive participants in a tragic system, began to see themselves as agents of change. Each successful intervention became a testament to their courage and ingenuity, a beacon of hope in a landscape of despair. The realization that they could make a difference fueled their resolve, transforming them from ordinary railway workers into unsung heroes of the resistance movement. By the year of 1942, the groundwork for a series of daring interventions had been laid. The resistance prepared for the next phase of their mission, the execution of their plan. The birth of resistance had given rise to a new sense of purpose, as the dispatchers prepared to confront the machinery of deportation head-on. The railway workers were no longer mere observers of tragedy. They were determined to rewrite the narrative of their time, one train at a time. The dawn of 1943 heralded a new chapter in the account of the Polish railway resistance. Armed with a plan and fortified by their shared resolve, the dispatchers prepared to execute their first acts of sabotage. The time for preparation had passed, the time for action had arrived. The first successful intervention occurred in the early months of 1943. A train, originally destined for the Auschwitz concentration camp, was rerouted to a safe location. The dispatchers, working in concert, altered the destination lists and switched the train wagons, effectively diverting the transport. This operation was a triumph of ingenuity and courage, allowing a group of prisoners to escape the clutches of the Nazi regime. Word of their success spread quickly, both within the resistance network and beyond. The dispatchers had achieved the seemingly impossible, and their actions inspired others to join the cause. The railway resistance, once a small and isolated group, began to grow in strength and numbers. However, with success came increased scrutiny from Nazi authorities. The disappearance of transports did not go unnoticed, and the Nazis responded with heightened security measures on the railways. The dispatchers found themselves navigating a treacherous landscape of suspicion and danger, as the stakes of their mission were raised. Despite the risks, the railway resistance pressed on. Each successful operation bolstered their confidence and reinforced the importance of their mission. The dispatchers understood the profound impact of their actions, both in terms of the lives saved and the disruption caused to the Nazi deportation efforts. The confrontation between the railway resistance and the Nazi authorities was a battle of wits and wills. The dispatchers, armed with their knowledge of the railway system, exploited every opportunity to sabotage the deportations. They operated with precision and stealth, always mindful of the consequences of discovery. During the year progressed, the railway resistance continued to execute their plan, altering deportation routes and saving countless lives. Their actions were a testament to the power of human ingenuity and moral courage in the face of tyranny. The dispatchers, once ordinary railway workers, had become unsung heroes of the resistance movement. The first acts of sabotage marked a turning point in the struggle against the Nazi regime. The railway resistance had demonstrated that even in the darkest of times, there was hope. Their bravery and determination served as a beacon of light, inspiring others to resist in their own ways. The confrontation between the railway resistance and the Nazi authorities was far from over. Yet, with each successful intervention, the dispatchers reaffirmed their commitment to their cause. They understood the stakes of their mission, and they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the dispatchers continued their operations, they developed a network of informants and allies among the local population. These individuals, often at great personal risk, provided vital intelligence on transport schedules and the movements of Nazi officials. The railway workers learned to rely on this network, which expanded their reach and effectiveness. One particularly daring operation involved a train carrying a large contingent of Jewish prisoners from the Warsaw Ghetto. The dispatchers, alerted to the train's imminent departure, sprang into action. They coordinated with members of the Polish underground state, who had secured a safe house in a nearby village. As the train approached, the dispatchers altered the route, diverting it toward the safe house instead of the death camp. The operation was fraught with danger. The railway workers had to act quickly, knowing that any delay could lead to discovery. As the train rolled into the station, the dispatchers signaled to the waiting resistance members, who were prepared to assist in the transfer of the prisoners to safety. The operation was a success, with dozens of lives saved that day. However, the audacity of their actions did not go unnoticed. Nazi officials intensified their investigations into the railway system, suspecting that sabotage was at play. The dispatchers were acutely aware of the risks they faced. They knew that if caught, the consequences would be dire not only for themselves but also for their families and colleagues. In response to the increased scrutiny, the railway resistance adapted their tactics. They became more cautious in their operations, employing misdirection and deception to throw the Nazis off their trail. The dispatchers began using decoy trains, sending empty cars on false routes to create confusion within the Nazi ranks. This strategy allowed them to continue their work while minimizing the risk of detection. As the months wore on, the railway resistance became increasingly sophisticated in their operations. They developed a system of coded messages to communicate with one another, ensuring that their plans remained secret. Dispatchers would leave notes in hidden locations, using symbols and numbers to convey information about upcoming transports and potential opportunities for intervention. The success of the railway resistance inspired similar actions across Poland. Other sectors of society began to take notice of the bravery displayed by the railway workers. In cities and towns, individuals from various backgrounds joined the resistance, contributing their skills and resources to the cause. The movement grew, fueled by a shared sense of purpose and a desire to combat the horrors of the Nazi regime. Yet, the growing resistance also drew the ire of the Nazis. As the railway workers continued to thwart deportations, the regime launched retaliatory measures against the Polish population. Public executions and mass arrests became more frequent, instilling fear in the hearts of those who dared to defy the occupiers. The railway dispatchers, aware of the risks, remained resolute in their commitment to saving lives. The confrontation escalated further when a particularly bold operation resulted in the successful rerouting of a train carrying high-ranking Nazi officials. The dispatchers, seizing an opportunity, altered the train's course, sending it toward a remote location where it could be safely intercepted. This act of defiance sent shockwaves through the Nazi hierarchy, demonstrating that the Polish resistance was not to be underestimated. As the year progressed, The railway resistance faced mounting challenges. The Nazis intensified their efforts to root out dissent, employing informants and spies to infiltrate the resistance network. Trust became a precious commodity, and the dispatchers had to navigate a landscape fraught with betrayal and danger. Despite these challenges, the railway workers remained undeterred. They understood that their actions had the potential to change the course of history. Each successful operation not only saved lives, but also undermined the Nazi regime's control over the railways. The dispatchers had become a thorn in the side of their oppressors, and they were determined to continue their fight. As the summer of 1943 approached, the railway resistance had saved hundreds of lives through their daring interventions. Their actions had become a symbol of hope for the Polish people, a testament to the power of collective resistance against tyranny. The dispatchers, once ordinary railway workers, had transformed into a formidable force, challenging the very foundations of the Nazi deportation machine. As 1944 unfolded, the landscape of Poland was marked by both despair and resilience. The Nazi regime, facing increasing pressure from the Allied forces, intensified its efforts to maintain control over occupied territories. Yet, amid this turmoil, the Polish railway resistance continued to operate, their resolve unyielding in the face of mounting adversity. The dispatchers had become adept at navigating the complexities of their mission. They had learned to anticipate the moves of the Nazis, employing a combination of cunning and bravery to outsmart their oppressors. Their network had expanded, drawing in more railway workers and civilians who shared their commitment to saving lives. The resistance had become a movement, a collective effort to defy the horrors of the Holocaust. In the spring of 1944, the railway resistance executed one of their most ambitious operations to date. Intelligence gathered from their network indicated that a large transport of Jewish prisoners was scheduled to depart from a nearby station, bound for the infamous Treblinka extermination camp. The dispatchers knew that this was a critical moment. They had to act swiftly to prevent another tragedy. The plan was meticulously crafted. The dispatchers coordinated with members of the Polish underground state, who had arranged for safe houses along the route. As the train approached, the dispatchers prepared to alter the tracks, diverting the transport away from its deadly destination. The operation required precise timing and flawless execution, as any misstep could lead to catastrophic consequences. As the train rolled into the station, the dispatchers sprang into action. They altered the switch tracks, redirecting the train toward a pre-arranged location where resistance members awaited. The operation unfolded with breathtaking speed, and within minutes, the train was safely diverted. The prisoners, initially bewildered by the sudden change in direction, were soon met by the resistance fighters, who provided them with food, shelter, and a chance at freedom. The success of this operation reverberated throughout the resistance network. News of the daring intervention spread quickly, igniting a renewed sense of hope among the Polish people. The railway workers had once again demonstrated that resistance was possible, that ordinary individuals could stand up against the machinery of oppression. However, the Nazis were not blind to the growing defiance. In response to the increasing frequency of successful interventions, they launched a brutal crackdown on the railway system. Surveillance intensified, and the consequences for those suspected of aiding the resistance became increasingly severe. The dispatchers faced a perilous reality, knowing that their actions could lead to imprisonment, torture, or death. Despite the heightened risks, the railway resistance remained steadfast in their commitment to their cause. They understood that their actions were not merely about saving lives, they were also a form of defiance against the Nazi regime. Each successful operation was a blow against the oppressors, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As the summer of 1944 approached, the situation in Poland became increasingly dire. The Nazi regime, desperate to maintain control, resorted to extreme measures. Mass deportations continued, and the horrors of the Holocaust unfolded with relentless brutality. Yet, amid this darkness, the railway resistance persisted, their actions a flicker of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape. The dispatchers continued to adapt their tactics, employing new strategies to evade detection. They established safe houses and escape routes, creating a network of support for those seeking refuge from the Nazis. The railway workers became a lifeline for countless individuals, offering not only physical safety but also a sense of solidarity in the face of overwhelming adversity. As the year progressed, the railway resistance faced increasing challenges. The Nazis intensified their efforts to root out dissent, employing informants and spies to infiltrate the resistance network. Trust became a precious commodity, and the dispatchers had to navigate a landscape fraught with betrayal and danger. The culmination of their efforts came in late 1944, as the tide of war began to shift. The Allied forces advanced, liberating territories previously under Nazi control. The railway resistance, having saved countless lives, found themselves at a crossroads. Their mission had evolved from mere sabotage to a broader fight for freedom and justice. In the aftermath of the war, the enduring legacy of the railway resistance became a powerful symbol of courage and defiance. The actions of these ordinary railway workers had far-reaching consequences, inspiring future generations to stand against oppression and injustice. Their bravery served as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could prevail. The account of the Polish railway resistance is a testament to the power of collective action in the face of tyranny. The dispatchers, once ordinary workers, had transformed into heroes, challenging the very foundations of the Nazi regime. Their legacy endures, a beacon of hope for those who continue to fight against oppression in all its forms. As the world reflects on the lessons of history, the bravery of the railway resistance serves as a reminder that resistance is not only possible but essential. The dispatchers, through their unwavering commitment to saving lives, demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming odds, individuals can make a difference. Their story is a call to action, urging us to confront injustice wherever it may arise. In the Polish railway workers who altered deportation routes and saved lives left an indelible mark on history. Their courage and determination continue to inspire those who seek to challenge oppression and fight for justice. The legacy of their resistance lives on, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of darkness. As the railway resistance escalated its operations throughout 1943, the consequences of their actions began to ripple through the fabric of Nazi control in occupied Poland. Each successful intervention not only saved lives, but also sparked a series of reactions from the Nazi authorities that would shape the course of the resistance movement. The railway workers, emboldened by their initial successes, found themselves at a critical juncture, a turning point that would test their resolve and commitment to their cause. The Nazis, increasingly aware of the disruptions to their deportation schedules, intensified their scrutiny of the railways. The once ordinary railway stations transformed into hotbeds of tension and suspicion. Railway workers who had previously operated in relative anonymity now found themselves under the watchful eyes of Gestapo agents and informants. The atmosphere was charged with fear, and the stakes had never been higher. The railway workers understood that their actions were not without consequences. They were playing a dangerous game that could cost them their lives. In response to the growing resistance, the Nazis implemented draconian measures to tighten control over the railways. They increased patrols, instituted stricter security protocols, and even resorted to violent reprisals against railway workers suspected of collaboration with the resistance. The chilling message was clear: any act of defiance would be met with brutal consequences. The railway workers faced a moral dilemma should they continue their efforts to disrupt the deportations, knowing that their actions could lead to severe punishment for themselves and their families. Despite the looming threat, the dispatchers and their allies remained resolute. They had witnessed the horrors of the concentration camps and could not stand idly by while their fellow citizens were carted away to face unspeakable fates. The moral imperative to act outweighed the risks, and the railway workers forged ahead with their plans. They devised new strategies to evade detection, employing a mix of cunning and courage to outsmart the Nazi authorities. One of the most significant turning points came in the summer of 1943, when a particularly ambitious operation was launched. The dispatchers orchestrated a large-scale rerouting of a transport train that was set to carry a significant number of Jewish prisoners to a death camp. This operation required meticulous planning and coordination, as the railway workers had to navigate a labyrinth of schedules and routes while avoiding the watchful eyes of Nazi guards. The operation was executed flawlessly. The train, laden with prisoners, was diverted to a hidden location where members of the Polish underground state awaited to provide shelter and assistance. The success of this operation sent shockwaves through the Nazi command, who were left scrambling to understand how their meticulously planned deportation schedules had been so effectively thwarted. The railway resistance had struck a significant blow against the Nazi regime, and the repercussions were felt far and wide. However, this victory came at a cost. The Nazis retaliated with a vengeance, launching a campaign of terror against the railway workers and the communities that supported them. In the wake of the successful operation, the Gestapo rounded up dozens of railway workers and their families, subjecting them to brutal interrogations and, in many cases, execution. The consequences of their actions weighed heavily on the conscience of the resistance members, who grappled with the knowledge that their fight for justice could lead to the suffering of innocent people. As the year progressed, the railway resistance faced an increasingly hostile environment. The Nazi regime, desperate to maintain control, escalated its efforts to root out dissent. The railway workers found themselves in a precarious position, caught between their moral convictions and the brutal realities of occupation. The turning point had arrived, and the consequences of their actions would shape the future of the resistance movement. Yet, amid the chaos and suffering, the railway workers found solace in their shared purpose. They were not alone in their fight. They were part of a larger movement that sought to resist tyranny and uphold the dignity of humanity. The bonds forged in the crucible of resistance strengthened their resolve, and they continued to innovate and adapt their strategies in the face of overwhelming odds. The turning point of 1943 marked a critical juncture in the struggle against the Nazi regime. The railway resistance had proven that ordinary individuals could challenge the machinery of oppression, and their actions inspired others to join the fight. The consequences of their bravery were profound, igniting a spark of hope in a landscape shrouded in despair. The railway workers understood that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest for justice. The aftermath of the railway resistance's bold actions in 1943 reverberated throughout occupied Poland, leaving an indelible mark on the landscape of resistance and the psyche of its people. The consequences of their bravery were profound, leading to both transformation and tragedy in the lives of those involved. As the year unfolded, the railway workers found themselves navigating a complex web of challenges, as the Nazi regime intensified its crackdown on dissent. In the wake of the successful rerouting operations, the railway workers experienced a surge of support from the local population. News of their courageous acts spread, inspiring ordinary citizens to take a stand against the Nazi occupiers. The railway resistance became a symbol of hope, demonstrating that even in the darkest of times, individuals could unite to resist tyranny. This newfound solidarity galvanized the Polish underground state and other resistance movements, leading to a broader network of support for those fighting against the Nazis. However, this transformation was not without its costs. The Nazi regime, enraged by the audacity of the railway workers, unleashed a wave of terror upon the communities that had supported them. Mass arrests, deportations, and executions became commonplace as the Nazis sought to instill fear and suppress any semblance of resistance. The railway workers faced the grim reality that their actions had consequences not only for themselves but for their families and neighbors as well. Many railway workers were forced into hiding, living in constant fear of discovery. The once familiar landscape of their daily lives became a treacherous terrain, fraught with danger at every turn. The camaraderie that had developed among the resistance members became a lifeline, as they relied on one another for support and protection. The bonds forged in the crucible of resistance deepened, transforming them from ordinary railway workers into a tight-knit community of activists committed to a common cause. In the face of adversity, the railway resistance adapted their strategies. They became more secretive in their operations, employing new methods to communicate and coordinate their efforts. The dispatchers began to utilize coded messages and clandestine meetings, ensuring that their plans remained hidden from the ever-watchful eyes of the Nazis. This transformation marked a shift in their approach, as they learned to navigate the complexities of resistance in an increasingly hostile environment. The effect of the railway resistance extended beyond the immediate actions of the dispatchers. Their bravery inspired other sectors of society to rise up against the Nazis. Artists, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens began to find ways to resist, whether through acts of sabotage, the dissemination of underground literature, or the provision of shelter to those in need. The railway workers had ignited a spark of defiance that spread like wildfire, transforming the landscape of resistance in Poland. During the war progressed, the railway workers continued to face insurmountable challenges. The Nazis, determined to quash any form of dissent, intensified their efforts to root out resistance members. The railway workers endured harrowing experiences, with many being captured, tortured, or executed for their defiance. Yet, even in the face of such brutality, their spirit remained unbroken. The legacy of their actions would endure, serving as a testament to the power of human courage in the face of tyranny. The aftermath of the railway resistance's actions in 1943 marked a pivotal moment in the broader struggle against the Nazi regime. The transformation of ordinary railway workers into courageous activists demonstrated the potential for collective action to challenge oppression. Their bravery inspired a generation of Poles to resist, laying the groundwork for a more extensive resistance movement that would continue to grow in the years to come. As the conflict neared the enduring legacy of the railway resistance would be remembered as a beacon of hope in a time of darkness. The sacrifices made by these ordinary individuals would not be forgotten, as their actions served as a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. The railway workers had transformed their moral outrage into action, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, individuals could make a difference. In the aftermath of the railway resistance was not merely a story of loss and suffering, it was also a narrative of transformation and hope. The courage of the railway workers had inspired a movement that transcended their individual actions, leaving an enduring legacy of resistance that would resonate long after the war had ended. Their story serves as a powerful reminder of the capacity for ordinary people to rise against tyranny and fight for justice, even in the darkest of times. As the dust settled on the battlefields of Europe and the horrors of World War II began to fade into history, the enduring legacy of the Polish railway resistance emerged as a poignant testament to human courage and moral conviction. The actions of the railway workers, who risked their lives to alter deportation routes and save countless souls from the clutches of death, would resonate far beyond the immediate aftermath of the war. Their story became an integral part of the broader narrative of resistance against tyranny, illuminating the power of individual agency in the face of overwhelming oppression. In the wake of the war's conclusion in 1945, Poland found itself in a state of profound upheaval. The Nazi regime had been dismantled, but the scars of occupation and genocide ran deep. The Jewish community, once vibrant and integral to Polish society, had been decimated. Those who survived faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives in a world forever altered by the Holocaust. The railway workers who had participated in the resistance returned to their lives, forever changed by their experiences and the moral weight of their actions. Many of these workers remained silent about their involvement in the resistance for years, grappling with the trauma of their experiences and the loss of life they had witnessed. The oppressive atmosphere of post-war Poland, particularly under the communist regime that emerged, stifled open discussions about the Holocaust and the resistance movements. However, as the decades passed, The stories of those who had fought against the Nazi deportations began to surface, gradually finding their place in the collective memory of the nation. The 1980s marked a turning point in Poland's engagement with its wartime past. The rise of the Solidarity movement, which championed human rights and freedom, created an environment conducive to revisiting the narratives of resistance during the war. In this climate, the contributions of the railway workers began to receive the recognition they deserved. Memorials were erected, and historical accounts were published, shedding light on the bravery of those who had risked everything to save lives. One of the most significant commemorations took place in the early 2000s, when a memorial dedicated to the railway resistance was unveiled in Warsaw. This monument served as a powerful reminder of the sacrifices made by ordinary individuals in extraordinary circumstances. It honored not only the railway workers but also the countless lives they had saved, ensuring that their legacy would not be forgotten. In addition to physical memorials, educational initiatives emerged to teach future generations about the Holocaust and the resistance movements that arose in response to it. Schools began incorporating the stories of the railway workers into their curricula, fostering a deeper understanding of moral courage and the importance of standing against injustice. Documentaries and films were produced, bringing the account of the railway resistance to a broader audience and inspiring discussions about the implications of their actions in contemporary society. The enduring legacy of the Polish railway resistance extends far beyond the borders of Poland. Their actions serve as a powerful example of how individuals can affect change, even in the most oppressive circumstances. The moral choices made by these workers resonate with contemporary discussions about human rights, social justice, and the responsibilities of individuals in the face of systemic evil. The railway workers' story has become a symbol of hope and resilience, inspiring movements for justice and resistance against oppression around the world. Their courage in the face of danger reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is the potential for light. The lessons learned from their actions continue to inform our understanding of resistance, complicity, and the moral imperatives that guide human behavior. In the context of modern conflicts and humanitarian crises, the enduring legacy of the railway resistance serves as a call to action. It challenges individuals and communities to reflect on their own roles in the face of injustice, urging them to consider what they might do to stand against oppression. The railway workers remind us that the choices we make, no matter how small, can have profound consequences. As Poland continues to grapple with its complex history, the memory of the railway resistance plays a crucial role in shaping national identity. The acknowledgement of their bravery contributes to a broader understanding of Polish history, one that encompasses both the suffering endured during the war and the acts of resistance that emerged in response. This dual narrative fosters a sense of collective responsibility, encouraging future generations to honor the legacy of those who fought against tyranny. The railway workers' story also underscores the importance of preserving memory in the face of attempts to erase or distort history. As Holocaust denial and revisionism persist in various forms, the accounts of those who resisted serve as a bulwark against such narratives. By sharing their stories, survivors and their descendants ensure that the truth of the Holocaust and the courage of the resistance are never forgotten. The effect of the Polish railway resistance extends beyond national borders, resonating with global movements for justice and human rights. Their story has found a place in the annals of international human rights discourse, serving as a reminder of the moral imperative to protect the vulnerable and resist oppression. The actions of the railway workers have inspired similar movements worldwide, where individuals and groups have taken a stand against injustice, often at great personal risk. In contemporary society, the principles embodied by the railway resistance continue to inspire activism and advocacy. From grassroots movements to international campaigns, the spirit of resistance lives on, reminding us that the fight for justice is ongoing. The enduring legacy of the railway workers serves as a guiding light, urging us to confront injustice wherever it may arise and to stand in solidarity with those who are oppressed. As we reflect on the enduring legacy of the Polish railway resistance, We are reminded of the profound impact that individual actions can have in the face of systemic evil. The courage and moral conviction of these railway workers serve as a testament to the power of human agency, inspiring us to confront injustice and advocate for those who cannot speak for themselves. Their story is not merely a historical account, it is a call to action for all of us. It challenges us to consider our own roles in the world and to reflect on the choices we make in our daily lives. The railway workers remind us that, even in the darkest of times, there is always the potential for hope and resistance. As we honor their legacy, let us carry forward the lessons learned from their actions, ensuring that the memory of their bravery continues to inspire future generations. In doing so, we not only pay tribute to those who fought against tyranny, but also reaffirm our commitment to justice, compassion, and the enduring power of the human spirit.